To be joined by the co-hosts of a podcast dedicated to the blue and white. Christine Dimov and Sylvia Hargitay are the hosts of a podcast called Ladies Talkin Leafs. And let's invite them into our StreamYard now for Hockey Time Machine. Hello, you two. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you, Steve?
Yeah. Wonderful. Very pleased to have the chance to meet you both and to talk about this not so new venture anymore. It's been around for a bit now. Christine, how did the podcast get started in the first place?
It was actually Syl that came up with the idea. Myself, we've both been huge Leaf fans for many years. We've known each other basically back to the 93 season this was very appropriate. Seeing all the like Mark Osborne and Pat Burns, from the 93 season. But yeah, so we've known each other for over 30 years now. And, Syl just came up to me, it was in January of 2019, I guess. And she's like, we love talking about the Leafs and, we can go on and talk about hockey forever. And why don't we try and do something like a podcast? And I'm like, well, I'm not really good with technology. So I said, if you can work it out, then we can give it a try. And so she did. And, like I said, when it comes to talking Leafs, I could talk about the Leafs forever, so there's no problem with that.
Well, we know you've been on some of our Zoom feeds in the past as well for the after party, as we call it. Yeah. Sylvia, how about you? Do you trace your origins to becoming a Leaf fan back to this season as well?
Well, I think both of us have been lifelong Leaf fans. For me, I think for a lot of us, it's really a family affair, and for me, I really started watching the games when I was little with my dad. It was like what we would do. At that time, it was you couldn't get hockey every night. It was just like Wednesday night and Saturday night hockey night in Canada. And so that's kind of where it started. And but when Christine and we started to work together for a travel company at the time, that's how we got to know each other. And she actually invited me to one game, just to be nice, I think. And, we just hit it off and talked hockey the whole time. So then, then we were trying to get to as many games as we could. And that's, that's kind of how it all sort of started. And, but the 92, 93 season, I think that's when we really kind of got into it, as a pair, like we've enjoyed the team together ever since then.
And Christine, what's the kind of stuff that you talk about on your podcast?
Well, it's mainly about the current team, obviously. But we do, like, especially during the COVID times and that, when there wasn't any hockey, we both love the history of the team being an Original Six franchise as well. So we do delve into that a little bit. There we are with our Toronto St. Pats. I didn't have the hat or the toque that Syl has, but I tried to make it with the green hat there. But yeah, so we talk about everything from the coaching to the management to the salary cap to the players, the line combinations. Yeah, we try and cover it all as best we can, and then we try and mix in also. Because we are geared towards the female, or we're the female hockey fan too. So we have a segment called On the Road with Chris and Syl, because we have gone on several road trips together, and there we are in Detroit in that freezing cold day.
That's the outdoor game.
Yeah, the Winter Classic.
Right.
So that was quite the experience, let's say that, and it was a lot of fun. But yeah, so we've been to like Nashville, Chicago. And then a couple of years ago, our most recent one, we called it the Austin Matthews road trip. We went to Vegas and Arizona. So we followed the Leafs there. And so we do have this segment in there where we kind of tie in for the female listeners, I guess, like to let them know like shopping, what to see, what to do, plus I guess at the rink, what other teams have and offer and stuff like that. So yeah, but our main focus is obviously on the team and yeah.
Well, that was going to be my question, Sylvia. Do you think female hockey fans and male hockey fans are interested in the same thing.
Absolutely. And I think that's sort of, what kind of led us to do this, because a lot of men that we talk to, they are like surprised how much we know about, not just the players, but the game itself. So I really think that there is a huge female audience out there who talks hockey just like any guy would talk hockey. So I don't really see that, what we would talk about is really any different than what, males would talk about. The only difference is that, and I would think this is different now, generationally, but, we didn't get an opportunity to play the game when we were growing up. But I think a lot of young women who have had that opportunity, they have every bit as much knowledge and talk about exactly the same things that men would talk about.
Yeah, I wondered about that because, you can listen to a lot of sports radio or other podcasts, and you can hear half-hour debates with an incredible amount of intensity about who would be the best choice to play left wing on the fourth line for the Leafs. And,
we cover that.
That's what I wondered. You guys cover that stuff too, eh? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good to know. Okay, Chris, is the Maple Leaf franchise helpful to you in as much as, I don't know, do they make guests available, or do they take your calls and help you with information, or tell us about that?
Oh no, we're not connected to the Maple Leaf organization at all. We do everything ourselves.
We haven't really tried that either yet, but you know what? There's always hope, like as we grow and get more exposure. We see it like there's nobody else out there that's doing what we're doing right now, or at least not very many. So to us, like the sky's the limit. So we're just going to keep pushing to get as much exposure. And if one day somebody from the Leafs organization wants to come on our show, then that would be fantastic. So, but then again, we also would like to have people like, Grandma Doobie, who is like, Kyle Dubas's grandmother. Like, we think that she would be a great guest, or Mitch Marner's mom, for example. Like, we do have like a different perspective, and there's other angles that we kind of feel that we could cover differently.
Right on. Yeah. Now let's hit this on the head. Obviously there are a lot of sexist people in this world who will think two women who never played the game can't possibly know as much about the Leafs or hockey history or the game today as they do. Christine, what do you want to say to them?
That's their opinion, basically. That's too bad. I guess they'd have to sit with both each of us for about maybe 5-10 minutes, and we could basically, when it comes to talking about even the game itself, like we know a lot about the NHL, the teams around the league as well. In fact, today I was just at my dentist, and he was saying how he was at a local rink and there were some NHLers there, and he's like, I didn't know any of them. They were practicing, I guess, getting ready for the season. He's like, but I know if you were there, you would probably know every single player, even though like no names were on their jerseys. So yeah. Well,
speaking of names on the jerseys, you got one hanging on the wall behind you. Whose name's on that one?
Yeah, that's Wendell. That's my favorite player. I got this jersey from when I was 16 years old, and I don't know if you can see it there. Yeah, so you bet. That's great. But that's why that time from when he got drafted, I believe it was in 1985. Like that was the like I was just all of Toronto loved the guy in his first season, and then my cousin bought me that jersey, and it still actually fits, even though I don't. So that's a good thing. And so that's a story behind that. But before that, I actually was a Rick Vaive was my other favorite player before that in the 80s, because like Syl said earlier, we grew up with the team from like before the 92-93 season, that's for sure. But it's just when we first met was at that time. Right. Sylvia, do you want a chance to answer that question about how you want to, do you handle any sexism? Have you had to run into any of that during the course of doing the podcast? Of course we have, like even prior to that, even going to games. It's like the one thing is men, obviously
often think that all we talk about is the players and how they look and whether they're cute or not or whatever. So, and actually, I don't even think we've ever talked about that on our show. You know, one thing I would there. No, one thing I would say is that, you know, we don't tout ourselves as knowing absolutely everything. There's plenty of other shows out there for that are run by, you know, professional broadcasters, you know, that the professional networks put on. We don't have to be that, but would I say we have an extensive knowledge? Can we hold our own? Absolutely. And I do think that we look at things a little different than men do. And so we do have some different perspectives to bring to the game. So that's what I would say.
Good. Who's your favorite Leaf of all time?
Oh my goodness. Well, okay, I'm a diehard Dougie fan, so he's always been my favorite player, like from that time. But growing up, I always played goalie, like for any team that I ever played for. I actually played field hockey, so that's not really the same, but anyway. But my favorite player growing up was Mike Palmateer, because he was just such an aggressive player in the net, and his acrobatics and just like coming out with the poke check. I just loved watching him. He was very exciting to watch.
I always remember the line that he said to Jim Gregory when he was drafted by the Leafs general manager. He said, "Mr. Gregory, your goaltending problems are now over." How's that for confidence?
Definitely. Well, that's the way he played for sure. So
he sure did. Well, thank you both very much for joining us here this evening on Hockey Time Machine. We want to remind everybody, Ladies Talkin Leafs, that's the name of the podcast, and I presume it can be downloaded anywhere you get your podcasts. Yeah,
Absolutely.
There you go. Apple, Google, Spotify, all that business.
You'll find us everywhere.
Yep.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'm going to start downloading you now.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be on the show tonight.
Not at all. We look forward to listening to it. And as is our custom at the end of every Hockey Time Machine, we bring in to join us the people behind the scenes who really make it all happen. So Glenn and Lora, if you join us right now, they usually like to make a few comments about the show we just saw, and then Lora tells us all the specific things that we can do either on YouTube or on Facebook to make sure that people watching this get their notifications. Glenn, why don't you come in here and tell us how that Carrie Fraser thing came together?
I was producing the Squid and the Ultimate Leafs Fan podcast earlier today, and Paul Patskou, who couldn't be with us tonight, said, "Why don't you work in a question for our show about Carrie, the Leafs fan?" So he's good-natured about it. He's been asked about it 1,000 times. And so I said, I'm not going to prosecute the missed call again, but what would you like to say encouraging to Maple Leaf fans? And of course, he went on to say about how awful the team looked at the end of the playoffs this year.
Yes, he did.
So there you go. But I do want to mention to our two podcasters here, since before the show I came on and I played my male chauvinist pig character. And I wanted to tell them that in real life, I think that they are trailblazers and that they are role models. I grew up as a teenager going with my sister, Dana, to hockey games. We lived in Maryland, and we grew up together going to Capitals games. And she was just as knowledgeable and just as passionate a fan as I was. In fact, she wanted to be the first female NHL goaltender. And to my parents' credit, they didn't say that was a bad idea because she was a woman. They said it was a bad idea because they preferred for her to have all her teeth. So I think what the two of you are doing is great. And I hope that we all live long enough that you don't to never have to hear questions anymore about why are you as women doing a podcast. I think you're doing great, and we are so glad that you joined us tonight.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Hey, Sylvia, tell us, is the podcast, does it only happen during the NHL season, or do you go all year?
No, we actually, right now we're in our LTL patio season. That's what we call our off season. We normally the frequency, this year we started doing or semi-monthly podcast. We started out as monthly, so now we're publishing every 2 weeks in the month. But in the off season or our patio season, we kind of do shorten lengthen the frequency a little bit. So we just are doing once a month right now. But as soon as the season starts again, actually, we are coming up on our second anniversary. So our second anniversary episode will be, I think September 7th, we'll be publishing that. And depending on what kind of news there is, we'll start back to our semi-monthly frequency.
I already got all the content ready for that podcast. Yeah. There's lots to talk about. Let's talk about the Leafs. And
well, like Christine said, we can talk about hockey forever. So like we don't actually have to have the season on to find things to talk about.
Good. Yeah. Well, I'm one of those unfortunate people who watches pretty much every single Leaf game during the regular season and what limited playoff runs there have been over the last 17 years. And so I look forward to getting your take on the team that has brought me nothing but grief for such a long period of time.
All of us, we all brought us all of us grief, but that's why we're Leaf fans. And
indeed,
we love them.
indeed.
We love them, right? We're unique that way.
Laura, you always get the last word, so it's over to you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Steve, for all your help the last couple of days. And Glenn, you two have outdone yourselves with interviewing people, and Glenn putting everything together for the show tonight. And then both Syl and Chris being able to come on live. That was amazing. I know we've been trying to do this for a number of months, so we really appreciate your time tonight and that you came on and made it happen. We also want to talk about the Johnny Bauer Foundation just for a moment. So the event is happening Sunday, October 3rd, beginning at 11:30 a.m. It's going to be held at the Milton Conference Center in Milton, Grand Ballroom. So if anyone has tickets, previously purchased tickets are still valid. If they cannot make the new date, then we'll refund their purchase through the Johnny Bauer Foundation website. So if you don't have tickets yet, then contact the website or Paul and myself. We'll be happy to help you out and direct you to how you get your tickets. They haven't confirmed who the alumni is that will be attending, but all the alumni will either love Johnny like we all do, or have some good stories or have some good stories about him. So we'll be talking about that as it gets closer and closer to the date. But all the tickets from last year, was it last year that we sold the tickets, or the year before? Will all be honored this time. So if you liked our program tonight, could you do us a favor and give us a big thumbs up down there, and then smash the button that says subscribe, and then a little button that way you know when we're going live and what we're doing. So if everybody else has anything else to say, otherwise we're gone for the evening.
Great.
Post show on Zoom.
We'll
see you on Zoom.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.